what comes to mind when you hear the words rethinking the dollar?
Well, our current dollar is a Federal Reserve note issued by the Federal Reserve, which is composed of 12 branches, all of which are 100% owned by the banks in their district. And our dollars are not just, most people think the government issues the dollars and then they issue them and spend them, but that's not the way it works. The government itself has to borrow the money from the Federal Reserve, well, from the open market, and they originate with the Federal Reserve, which then lends them to banks or lends them to whoever gets the money. So it's always a loan. So it's a debt-based system. But what we have had at different times in history, and what worked very well, was a system in which the dollar was actually issued by the government. So if I were rethinking the dollar, I would suggest going back to U.S. notes or greenbacks as issued by Abraham Lincoln, who was picking up what the American colonists had done originally, issuing their own paper scrip. And this is how they managed to do amazing development across the country, and they broke away from being under the thumb of England because they issued their own money. So I think that's what we should do again, go back to what most people think money is, which is something issued by the government and spent into the economy, not borrowed from a bank, which creates it.
Right. Okay. Now, being that earlier I mentioned, as far as your recent blog post, you mentioned about the debt ceiling, and so right now there's a lot of things going on that the common person who doesn't stay in tune to these type of things are aware of. So right now, why is it important, you think, for people to begin improving their monetary literacy as well as their financial education in general?
Well, most people don't understand how money works, and that's why they're actually sort of blaming the wrong parties. And most people think the government does issue the money, that they issue too much, that the Federal Reserve is getting us in trouble by doing quantitative easing, which will hyperinflate the system. None of that's true. That's not the way money works. So it's complicated figuring out the system. In fact, most of our money is created by banks when they make loans. And you read that and you just can't figure out how that could be, or how do they get away with it, and how they do get away with it it's very obscure. So you have to dig into it too. When I first wrote Web of Debt, my best editor was my best friend, who would, we'd be reading along and she'd be suggesting different things. And then, periodically she'd go, "Now, are you sure that's the way it really works?" I mean, it's just so hard to believe, to get through to people that our money is not issued by the government. It is created by banks and lent to us. What they issue, banks do not take in other people's money and lend it out again, as they lead you to believe. They create the money they lend on their books as deposits. So all that's very complicated, and I could get into it. But anyway, it's something you really do have to put some effort into understanding, because it's been so obscured to us.